All right, these are 4 health and healing principles for healing the soil. These were not mine. Jim Horman from Soil Health Services, I learned that from him, but then also I've heard these same principles used by many other farmers. First, minimize disturbance. Disturbance means plowing or digging the soil a lot. Try to do that as small amount as possible. Second, maximize surface residue. Surface residue means this stuff on the surface. So in this situation, I grew cabbage and I had straw from the rice field. I put it on the ground. When this happens, if it rains, the soil doesn't run away. Also, if it rains, the soil doesn't come up and it hit the bottom of the cabbage leaves and make it all dirty. And also, then the microorganisms begin to live underneath the rice grass, and then the soil becomes puffy and soft and smells good again. Maximize live roots. So a lot of farmers, especially in Korea, I see they'll grow crops, and then they'll plow the ground after they're done growing, and they'll leave the ground empty. And every time weeds come, they plow again and plow again and plow. So they want nothing living in the soil when they are not growing anything. But the thing about that is many things live with the root of the plant, and they have a relationship where they help each other. So if you have living roots in the soil at all times, those living things, insects and fungus, like things like mushroom cells, and other bacteria, they will be living in the soil, so you can continue to have that soil life.
But this is, I think, good for the soil, but not the vegetable, but because we have to take
Yes. So yeah, you don't want to just grow your vegetables and have the weeds be huge, but I'm saying in the half of the year, sometimes you can't grow something there, right? If you have something living in the soil, it keeps those soil things living there. So when you go to plant your vegetable, then it's still living there, so it can help your vegetable right away. Yeah. And then yeah.
What if you have all the roots and the microorganisms? How can you put the seeds when you plant? I mean, like you need to plow just a little bit.
So what I have done is, one time, I plow the soil, I make the shape that I want, and then I grow something here, and I take all the dead plants. So before I plow, I cut all the dead plants, I put them one side, I plow, then I make the shape I want, and I cover the ground with the dead plants. Then, if this shape is maintained, I never plow again. Then, after I harvest my crop, I take so I do weed. I weed to a certain extent, and I take the dead weeds and I put them on the surface of the soil. Cut them on the surface of the soil. So you get more and more and more and more dead plant material on top of the soil, and then the bottom layer is decomposing, and it's continuously giving the nutrients from the dead plants into the soil, which is creating more and more topsoil. So the plant material itself, it takes some vitamins and minerals from the soil, but a lot of it uses the sunlight to make more plant matter. So we want that plant matter because that plant matter is made out of carbon. Carbon it's in the form of a large organic molecule. So carbon in the soil is carbon dioxide is like this, right? We have CO2. Did you ever take chemistry in school? Yeah. Okay. So then plants, they use sunlight. They make it into something that's sort of hexagon shaped, which is glucose. And then they take this, and then there's little carbons like this in here. And then they connect it, sort of like, this isn't a very accurate picture, but into chains of little 6-sided shapes. Then these become the plant material, like wood or any part of the plant. Then these can be rearranged in hundreds of millions of different ways to make different shapes. But this, because you know how there's like a O minus or a H plus or these kind of things you know in chemistry. Are you familiar with what the plus and minus means? Okay, some people don't. Okay, so you know, like if you have a blanket at night and in your bed and it's like rubbing on you, and then you can sometimes and you see all the sparks. You have that happen before? That is static electricity. There is a minus and plus attraction, like a little bit of electricity on almost all of the things, even the wood, even the paper, that's holding all of these molecules together. Some of them are bonded like this, and some of them are just held like kind of loosely, like the blankets sticking to your legs at night. So these little minuses and pluses, that is what's there in your blanket. This is what's there in water. It's there everywhere in the world. You can't see it, it just is there, okay? So these want to stick onto something. So you have organic molecule in the soil. You have your weed, you cut down your weed, you put it on top of the soil. The weed starts to decompose. It turns into organic matter. That means some kind of big, complicated shaped carbon thing like this. And there's all these little minuses and pluses all over it. And these want to grab onto something. So you have water, it comes from rain, and there are minerals in the soil from the rocks in the soil. The rain is a little bit acid. Always rain is a little acid. It dissolves the minerals in the soil that goes into the water. So the water is running past this piece of carbon that's in the soil, this piece of organic matter that's in the soil, and those things like calcium, magnesium, they stick onto the minuses and pluses. Things like nitrogen, they stick onto these minuses and pluses. They're there, kind of not holding on very tight, but they're there. Then the plant has a root. And the plant is drinking the water. It's drinking the water. And when it drinks the water, these things come into the plant at the same time. These things. The plant uses those to make all the structures in its body. For example, nitrogen and magnesium are in chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is what makes plants green. So they need these ones. Calcium is in fruits and seeds. If the plant wants to make seeds, it must find calcium. So the more organic matter you have in your soil, the more ability for the soil to hold on to nutrients. The more ability to hold on to nutrients, the better. If you put the fertilizer on the ground, the better the plants can take that fertilizer and use it in their bodies. Then, the better your plants are growing, the better you are, because you get more healthy from eating it. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. All right. And the last health and healing principle is maximize biodiversity. Do you guys know the word biodiversity? All right. You say you look like you know. So tell me, what does the word biodiversity mean? Species. So diversity plus bio. Bio means living. Diversity means diverse. Right. So we want to have as many kinds of species together. For example, you think of a cornfield, only corn growing there. But a vegetable garden, you have this vegetable and this vegetable and this vegetable. And sometimes the vegetables from last year, they start coming up in the area where you're planting something else. But you let them grow together, and then you have mixing together, right? That's biodiversity. And then graze the area if possible. If you have animals, during the time when the land is not being used for crops, sometimes you can let animals graze in there. Then it's nice because the animals poop on the ground. You don't have to go to their house and take the poop and move it to your field. It's right where you need it. Yeah. So that's another great method.